Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to have a look at the FWD Moments app. We're going to have a look at how the app can help you track all your insurance policies and some of its features. Then we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into one of the policies that I have and show you sort of some of the provisions and things that are sort of mentioned there. Lastly, we're going to have a look at renewal and what you need to do and where to renew and how to pay, etc. That's also on the app. So let's get started. So the first thing to do is to download the FWD Moments app from the App Store. We would have actually given you an email to actually show you how to register there as well. So let's have a look at that now. All right, so after downloading the app, basically you open it up, you log in, or if you haven't logged in before, you register, and it presents you with the homepage. And in the homepage, basically you have a few things. They greet you. For the top bar here, the submit claim, eHealth card, and clinic and hospital research. Those are basically more for group medical, like a company group medical. If you already have a group medical, then that really doesn't apply to you. This applies if you have a company card with FWD, which I do, and it has a panel selection. So, hospital search, that all sort of applies. So for people that have a medical policy that's a top-up medical, basically the claims process is separate to this. You have to actually fill in a form, get the doctor to fill in a form. So this is more for outpatient, and that's that. All right, then you go into where your policies are, and I have a few here. I have a premium financed Wealth Icon, for example, a group medical for my company, and then various individual top-up medicals for my other group medical and my aviation job. So then I have a QDAP, which is a deferred annuity, and then I have 2 policies for the kids for critical illness. And then down here, there's basically your claims and your policies, which also has, sort of the same detail, but in sort of a vertical scroll view, which is a little bit more easy to manage. And so if we have a look at this, you can have a look at, okay, your policies are right there. If we open up one of them, this case is vPrime, is where we do a bit of a deep dive, and we have a look at it, and it comes up with the policy number, that it is active, it's not lapsed because we're paid up, and who's the policy owner, which is myself, who's the insured, which is my daughter in this case. What is it? It's the vPrime Medical with $50,000 deductible. Various benefits, beneficiary, which we can change anytime by submitting a form, and also the payment mode and the contact information. All right, so that's basically the overview, and then we go into correspondence. And here is all the transmittal with regarding to this specific policy. So your first one should be acknowledgement of your policy receipt. So once you log on to the app, it'll pop up with a please acknowledge your policy that you have received. And so please click yes, because that helps us on the back end to track who's done it and who hasn't, and if we have to follow up with anybody. So once you have that policy receipt done, you also get your payment receipt, which is an official receipt. So you can have a look at this for, audit purposes. If you're paying this for yourself and your family annually, it's credited against the tax deductions. And so this is a form of payment, but obviously this one has the discount in it. So you would actually write the full amount in the tax deductions, but it's basically just an official receipt. All right. Now, here is the deep dive onto the policy document, which traditionally is a really thick book, especially with medical, because you have a lot of different sort of pages there for exclusions, definitions, and all this kind of stuff. Now it's all digital on the app at your fingertips. So I'll have a look at this. I won't go through all the clauses, don't be afraid. I'm just going to highlight a few things that I think are worth mentioning. All right, so it goes through the advisor, the policy number, that's a given. And then it goes through the product brochure, in this case vPrime. And the first thing, which we always mention, regulatory, have to always mention to you, is the sort of cooling off period. And the cooling off period is generally 21 days from once the policy is issued. All right. And I think that's right here. Yep. So cancellation within the cooling off period. If you don't like it, you can cancel right away within that 21 days based on the policy effective date, which is actually when it's effective, which is also mentioned in the document in this app. So that is important. And then afterwards, if you wanted to cancel it, say subsequent years pass and you've moved and this plan does not necessarily suit you anymore, basically you have to give written notice within 30 days. And that's sort of more applicable to monthly plans. So you need to give them 1 month in advance. And so if it's a yearly plan, this doesn't really apply. Just sort of renew sort of 30 days prior, or else in the yearly plan, basically just let it lapse, which is also okay. But that's sort of a general clause for cancellation. All right. And I want to also go over this clause, which is quite interesting. I have the page numbers referenced here. Okay, it goes into this clause, which is quite important, which is also something that you need to understand, which is there's no re-underwriting by FWD in this case once you're in. So once you're in and something happens, they can't question you and re-underwrite you to potentially not give you a claim. So that's sort of what this clause is. So that's sort of, gives you trust in that regard. Okay. And then for here, the submission of claims generally is within 90 days. And if you can't within 90 days, you have to write to them. But how claims work, which we'll actually show on a different video, is that you need to submit the original receipts, the hospital receipts, to the insurer, as well as the medical claim form, which is signed by the doctor, to the insurer within 90 days. And obviously, if this is the second claimant, then the first claimant, let's say from your group medical, has to be done first. You submit to them, you get everything back, and then you submit to FWD. And I'll show you some examples of that and the breakdown in the claims video on the channel. All right. So let's see, choice of healthcare provider is next. So territorial scope and choice of healthcare provider. I've asked, basically this is non-panel. So any registered doctor and registered hospital you can go to within Asia. So that includes all countries, period. So basically that's where it says that. Choice of ward class is subject to your own policy. In this case, it's semi-private room. Okay, so you have to kind of conform to that. And if you don't, there's just an adjustment, 50% or 25%, whether you're going into, let's say, a better class like private class or general ward in my case. So that'll be in the claims video as well. All right. So then it goes into all the benefits covered, and I won't go through all that in too much detail. But we also want to have a look at pre-existing conditions. Okay, so this is important. So this is the breakdown more detailed of just the what's in the brochure. But basically within the 30 days, the first 30 days of it being issued, there's no coverage if you don't know about a pre-existing condition that develops. If you know about things, obviously you're supposed to be declaring those during the application process. But if you don't know it, then basically this says, okay, within the first 30 days, we're not going to give you any coverage. From the 31st day, you are covered. But there could be a short claim case as well. So they may or may not have a look at, asking you to have a look at a different, you might have to go see another doctor. You might have to give your reports. And, they want to make sure that the date of the diagnosis is actually, within, after 31 days. Then you're covered. If it's within the 30 days, it's a short claim. They have a potential to reject your claim. All right, so that's sort of where it's all mentioned. Okay, I get this actually as a question as well. What are the exclusions? What doesn't it include, Michael, that you're saying everything's included? And actually that's all listed here on sort of page 30. Expenses incurred as a result of blah, blah, blah. It's all here. Okay, just 2 pages of it. It's actually quite short. And then you get into definitions, which I won't go through, and it goes on. And then you have your benefit schedule once again. So that's all there. Once again, you've seen this many, many times. It's in your policy. It's in your illustration. And then this is very important. So if you have group medical cover like I do, generally it's itemized benefits, which means there's sub-limits on the different categories that happen. That occur from a diagnosis. So if you're diagnosed a certain illness, it can be categorized as a major, complex, intermediate, or minor. And corresponding with that are certain limits the group cover would cover up to. And everything else needs to be taken care of by you or by, in this case, a medical plan, a top-up medical plan. So this gives a really good idea of what the actual category is. Is it complex? Is it major? Is it minor? Okay, you just have to kind of download this and have a look. You can actually download and do a word search in any PDF reader of your own diagnosis if you have one, heaven forbid. Then you will be able to kind of see, okay, well, it's a classification. So that's actually very, very useful. So I'm very happy that there's something to reference here because the group medical actually doesn't tell you what it is. All right. So it goes on, and all the types of diagnoses. Diagnoses, they're all here. All right. Then it goes into the actual plan. Once again, it goes into, sort of the benefits, reconstructive surgery, all this kind of stuff. I won't go through in too much detail. There's 127 pages. And let's see, 74. Okay, and yep, it goes into more terms and conditions, and then, no claims discount. So everything you've already seen here if you have one of these plans. And basically, here's the restriction to ward class. So if you don't, for my plan, it's a standard semi-private room. So if you choose a standard private room, the adjustment factor is 50%. And if you choose standard private room, and if the actual ward class is above the standard private room, there's only 25%. And then if you are outside of Asia, and then it's above the standard private room, it's an adjustment factor of 25%. So you burn faster your limits, so to speak. Okay. All right. So here's actually something I'll cover in the claims, but generally there's a formula for the claims and sort of flow chart and what you're going to get after you submit a claim. So if I zoom in for the overall benefit here, it says basically the final amount payable to you is equal to a formula. And that formula is, what are the eligible expenses based on what's covered. Okay, so all original hospital bills and things like that, less anything that another insurer is paying. So let's say there's a first claimant with a group medical, and then subject to the remaining balance, as stated in all these kind of terms and conditions, maybe limits, etc., less any remaining balance of deductible that's payable. Let's say it's above the deductible, or in this case, it would be referencing to below the deductible. Someone else pays that amount. That is the amount that you can claim from, the final amount. So it's just basically a calculation, but that's sort of the overall benefit and benefit payable. So they have sort of two examples here, and that's sort of that. But basically, you just submit it all, and the claims department of each coverage, each insurer does all those calculations. And it's very clear cut, as you'll see in the claims video. All right, so that's basically it for the policy document. There's nothing else I want to cover. At the very end, there's sort of what you have applied for, the application form, etc., etc. So that's very, very good. All right. So lastly is when it comes time for renewal, you generally get sort of 3 notifications from FWD, in this case, via this app. And the first one is the notification of renewal. So that basically just notifies that, hey, there's a renewal coming up. It's usually done about, I think, 6 weeks before the renewal date. And basically it says, okay, this year, if there's any loading, if you've made a claim, generally there aren't any loadings with claims, but if there's any loading that continues, such as when you applied, you've had hepatitis B, and there's 25% loading, or your BMI is off the charts because you're a bodybuilder, then there's a bit of a loading. So that's all sort of written down here very, very clearly, okay, in the notification of renewal document. And then there's a communication letter, where the communication letter is basically an upgrade or changes to the terms and conditions of your policy. So this is policy provisions amendments. And basically the reason for this communication letter in the industry is that through the claims and diagnosis of the years from several people, as well as medical enhancements through that year, certain terms and conditions need to be upgraded to match properly for the claim. And so that's actually a good thing. So you have a before amendment and you have an after amendment. And let's say we went down to this one here. Before amendment, we have, cancer, heart valve surgery, primary pulmonary arterial hypertension, and then over here, they've amended that to cardiac impairment due to primary pulmonary arterial hypertension. So, open heart valve surgery versus just heart valve surgery. So they amend it such that it's a bit more specific, such that it's easier to fall within the claim, such that there is less ambiguity in the whole claims process. All right. So it just basically has all this. That's very, very good. And then, it's obviously 100 pages. So it goes through the whole document again, and I'll just sort of branch over it. But basically you have all the terms and conditions could be amended in the document. That's why. So all the categories, etc., everything can be amended. All right. So just have a glance over that. I would have identified it for you if there's anything that needs to be of concern for our policies. I have your back on that. And then the last one is actually the premium notice policy. So the premium notice is actually the formal renewal. And what you have is sort of addressed to you, the bill number, the date, the policy number, the risk commencement date, which is actually the policy effective date. So that's the date that everything is based off of. And then you have the life insured, who that is. You have the amount. Okay. And then down here, you have basically the payment stub. So you have the policy number, the amount that's due, the premium payment date that's due, the due date, and then you have a QR code for the FPS if you're using FPS to pay. So technically you can't really, because you're using your phone, you can't really scan this. So you need to sort of download it or put it to another device, or take a screen capture and then scan it on there and pay with FPS. But if you don't want to use FPS, there's actually different methods of payment, which are down here. And you can pay in check, by mail, or e-check. And then you can also mail it in to us if you want. And you can do auto pay. That's more for a monthly. You have to actually set up a DDA. But for bill payment service is what I would have a look at. You can go to the ATM and do bill payment. So we are located under insurance companies, insurers, and then FWD, Life Insurance Co. And then check deposit machine, and then FPS, as we mentioned before, and PPS, which I use. And so you can also go in person, and there's different addresses. Basically, you have just to tell them your policy number, give them your Hong Kong ID, and then you just pay with cash, with check, or with whatever payment methods. So we're trying to improve this by allowing it to have a sort of either a voice notification or something to be able to alert you that something's happened in this app that you should have a look at. But let me know what you think and if this is helpful. Obviously, you can reach out to us anytime. So that wraps it up for this video. I hope you found it useful, and it's sort of a quick guide to know that actually this app is actually very useful. Everything's at our fingertips, all our policies. And if you also needed additional support, obviously you can contact us anytime. We offer that concierge service. But if you're also interested, we have a video on claims, and we also have another video on VHIS policies and why they're still relevant in 2021. So go check those out. And if you hit the link and hit the subscribe button, that would actually mean a lot to me. So please do that, and I'll see you in the next video.